exchange, a more meaningful dialogue when it comes to population control. Let's return then to our other top focus, which is coming from Kerala, the fight over who will get Kitex company. Which state will get what share from this Kitex company? Multi-billion-dollar revenue, a great legacy to look at, but a company which has not managed the best of relations with the Kerala government. My colleague Rishi Joshi actually managed to catch up with Sabu M. Jacob, Managing Director of Kitex. Just listen into what is being stated by Mr. Jacob there.
See, last 53 years, several times we had the similar issues. And this time, we decided to move out. So what I feel, more than the procedures, political and bureaucratical harassment, that is not only for me, almost everyone is facing the same, but they are scared to come out because, they will, do anything.
Let's bring in Dr. M.I. SAHADULLA. He's the Chief Managing Director of KIMS Healthcare Management System. We have V.K. Matthews, Founder Chairman of IBS Software Services. J. Rajmohan Pillai, Chairman Beta Group, will be joined by M.A. Baby, Member of Politburo and former Minister in Kerala government, live with us too. Let me just begin with you, Mr. Pillai. The fight which is taking place, there is Rajiv Chandrasekhar, who's just become a minister, saying we'll get Kitex company, to invest in Karnataka. Kitex company going and investing in Telangana. Kitex not managing the best of relations with the state of Kerala. What is this about? Is this about how to invest in Kerala? Is it about why is it that Kerala is not managing to push itself as an industrial hub?
Basically, I think we should look at this problem very differently. The Kitex company has been a Kerala-based company which has grown from being a very small company to such a major company to be able to be a very big player in the kids wear business in the United States. Now, being from Kerala, he is used to a particular role and how he wants to do it. Unfortunately, he has got into politics also, where he competed in all the assembly elections in Kerala this time. And he did not do very well. Now, the way that a businessman deals with a problem, like I have businesses in both Telangana, Orissa, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu in India. The way that we deal with problems is not to go public into the news and talk about a problem before going through a particular procedure. We can go to the court if nothing happens on a negotiation with the government. We can get an order on any thing that that either the Industries Department or the Pollution Control Department or any department does. We can get justice there. Here he seems to have having grown from Kerala, seems to have been able to think that he can go public and go into a total fight without knowing that all these states have equivalent or different problems. If some state has to give you so much of incentive to bring you into that state, then there should be, it's like a product which is in huge discount.
But Mr. Pillai, if I may counter you, sir, your argument appears to be that if a company is growing from a particular state, then that company owes its growth to that state. If a Vijay Shekhar Sharma starts a Paytm company, say from Noida, if he gets a base in Noida, which is in Uttar Pradesh, why should Vijay Shekhar Sharma simply restrict himself to looking after his relations with the state of UP? The purpose of corporations to grow will grow only if you grow manifoldedly in all directions, sir.
Not at all. Beta Group started in Kerala. Now we are in 5 countries around the world. There is no problem. It is only on how we will deal with a particular issue. Today, Kitex has a particular problem by which his labor force is 80% of people outside Kerala and only 20% of people from Kerala. It used to be the reverse about 10 years back. Kerala, the labor whole thing has changed. They have graduated people, all of them are educated. So the kind of work that he is offering are not what the labor wants to take up. So he's importing labor from Bihar and West Bengal to actually do it. So it is only right time, like what we did. When we couldn't find the labor, we shifted our factories to Tamil Nadu. But it is not to say that I have to fight with the government of Kerala to do it. It is my choice. I can move to anywhere in the country or in the world.
All right. Mr. Matthews, Mr. Matthews, interesting arguments we put forward by Mr. Pillai. But at the crux, at the heart of this entire debate, is that Kitex company, Mr. Jacob, perhaps is not fulfilling his responsibility, sir, towards the state of Kerala. Is that the way to look at it? That he's not looking after the poor and downtrodden in Kerala?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I would say this particular issue about Kitex, how it started, I would put it this way. This was, in my view, a willful harassment. There may be many reasons behind it. Some of them may be political, some of them may be personal, but all the same, within a 1 month period, 11 departments, so many raids to be conducted in a company which is giving jobs to tens of thousands of people, very high quality jobs. I think we should keep this in mind, that the jobs which Sabu Jacob gives is not for the IITs and BTechs and MTechs and MBAs. Considerable part of the people are probably SSLC or the 10th grade, or people who may not have completed even graduation. And that set of people, we do have plenty in our country, in our state. And the jobs given are very high quality jobs. And of course, the reason is because Sabo runs a very successful, he's the second largest producer in the world for kids wear. And of course, if you look at the code of conduct of those companies, when you reverse integrate that, Sabo has to be fulfilling a lot of governance and compliance requirements as stipulated by them. Now, it is a fact. It is an absolute fact. So the government of Kerala, under Sri Pinarayi Vijayan, has been trying their best to make Kerala an investor-friendly, business-friendly place. And in my view, the Chief Minister truly means and intends it. But when it comes to the grassroots levels, in this case, when it comes to the district of Ernakulam where Kitex is operating, and perhaps the Panchayat and also the corporation or the municipality, when it comes to that, it is not permeating. You have to really look at what is in it for. Kerala is a highly educated place and where people are aware. Now, if you look at a corporation or a municipality or a panchayat, the government employees, the union leaders and the politicians, what is it for them from this business? In fact, if at all, if somebody is coming and investing in solely additional work, what is the incentive that they get from that? Is a thought that
I'm at a slight loss to figure out why would we be holding Mr. Jacob responsible for not managing, some kind of a comfortable coexistence with the government of Kerala. Dr. Sadullah, the reality of any business, I'll just come back to Mr. Matthews in a moment. Dr. Sadullah, the reality of any business is to look at the balance sheet. Now, Mr. Sabu may feel that his balance sheet will become healthier if he was to follow a particular protocol. It's not his job to figure out whether the protocol which he is following will lead to the Kerala government also being shown in a particularly good light or not. Otherwise, he'll take his money as he's taken either to the state of Kerala, or as Rajiv Chandrasekhar, central minister, pointing out, you come, I'll take you to Karnataka. How is Mr. Jacob at fault if Pinarayi Vijayan cannot give him the right kind of ecosystem? Tell me.
I think we have to look at it in a different perspective in this situation. It is very unfortunate that Kitex is trying to leave Kerala, but they have grown in Kerala, and they have a good balance sheet. And but at the same time, that does not exonerate us from not following the government stipulations and government rules, pollution control board rules, etc. So probably that might have been, I think, blown out of proportion a little bit. And then there might have been excesses from the government side. I'm not denying that. But I think rather than going to this extent, there could have been better ways of, sorting it out. I quite agree that the government should extend their arm, and no business we want to see that it is going from Kerala. And in fact, I am just coming away from just half an hour ago. I had a discussion with the industries minister a couple of days ago with the opposition leader. None of them want to see that their business is leaving. And they are all willing to look into the situation and solve this problem. And but it went beyond, and then
No, I think Dr. Sadullah, maybe the other way to look at it is that Mr. Jacob is being made to pay a price, maybe for a political foray that he had made. Many of our viewers would remember that way back in 2013, it started off with a party, independent political party called 2020 in 2013, and 2020 party went on to win 17 out of 19 seats in the Kimakamal Panchayat elections in 2015. It retained power in the 2020 local body elections as well. However, in the assembly elections, all 8 seats which it contested lost. So I want to know, is Mr. Jacob finding himself in a spot of bother because he attempted to go on the political path, in a political trajectory?
See, that's a real good point you have brought up. I think when a businessman, usually we all follow a very neutral kind of path politically. But when a businessman gets into politics,
he gets into trouble.
To grow,
he gets into trouble. Mr. Matthews, isn't that the reality? The story of Mr. Jacob and Kitex pulling his money away from Kerala, going into Telangana, finding newer partners for him, newer states for himself. It reminds me of Subrata Roy Sahara, the chairman and managing director of the Sahara Group. As long as he was close to the Samajwadi Party, he could rule the state of UP. Moment there was a change of power, the fortunes had completely changed for Mr. Sahara. Is Mr. Jacob trying to avoid that and therefore taking his business in other states, sir?
I do not believe that is the case. Of course, 2020 and his political activism might have, and it has definitely created inconvenience for the other political parties, and particularly at the local level. I will not say that it's at the state level, meaning the government under the Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan. I don't think that is where the issue is pretty much local. And in fact, he would have been the cause of inconvenience for the local, and you have to feed the egos of those people. Otherwise, this is what you are going to end up finally getting. But regardless of any of those, I think it is a loss for the state if companies leave or companies stop investing.
Well, imagine.
In fact, the companies,
God's own country, country being treated like this.
No, in fact, it will, and therefore it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that they don't leave. Because let's face it, just I'll say one more thing.
Sure, sir.
A place which is, if it is not employer friendly, a society which does not support and respect employees will not find meaningful jobs. And those people will have to go elsewhere to find jobs. And this is something that we have to really look at. And in my view, the industries minister should take it upon himself. His job is to protect the industry and for the industry. And the labor minister is there, they will take care of the rest. I'm not saying that companies will be non-compliant. In my view, in a long term, unless you are totally compliant, you cannot actually progress. And I do not, if Kitex was not complying with some of the
But Mr. Pillai, final question then to you. The more I look at all the arguments being made by Dr. SAHADULLA or Mr. Matthews, I think that what is going on, Mr. Pillai, is that Mr. Jacob, perhaps he crossed that red line between being a pure businessman and getting into politics a long time back. Now maybe Mr. Vijayan is simply, repaying him in the same coin. Is that what's happening?
Absolutely. I mean, like any businessman getting into business, whether a businessman getting into politics, even in Telangana, will have the same fate in India. It is very difficult. We are not a democracy which kind of accepts business and politics together, similar to a politician being a businessman. So those red line has been crossed. I hope the best for him for his future, because he seems to have very good intentions of why he started the political party and how he is doing the things in his panchayat. People seem very happy.
Okay.
But it is very difficult to balance these two things and expect the same parties that you fought with to be very helpful to you.
All right. Mr. Pillai, Mr. Matthews and Dr. Sadullah, thank you so much for joining us on that big story. This is why these stories need to be told on platforms like India Ahead, because look at the titans from Kerala's industry, all of them coming together and giving us three very diverse, three very clear-cut views. It's been a great pleasure listening to all the three of you with your enlightening comments. Thanks so much. Thanks so much to all of you for joining us.